Last year, I had the chance to play Xenoblade Chronicles for the first time, and boy, was it an experience. I think after playing Xenoblade 1 for the very first time, I became a fan of the series. I really loved and enjoyed my time with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. So, would you believe I was bouncing off the walls when they announced that Xenoblade Chronicles X was getting the Definitive Edition treatment and being put from the Wii U onto the Nintendo Switch. I was literally bouncing off the walls. I had an audible reaction to the announcement. I'm sure all my coworkers worried for my mental health. Of course, they had to announce Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition after I bought it on Wii U. Now, granted, this isn't their fault because I bought the game a year previous and I hadn't played it at the time, so I guess this is my fault, apparently. Anyways, I was so very excited to go grab Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition on the Nintendo Switch, and I kind of just want to give my first impressions of the game. I've been playing it. It's been about a week since it came out of recording this, so I've been really getting into the game and enjoying it, so I just want to give my first impressions. This is going to be a little off script, you know, just my raw thoughts and opinions, so get ready. I want to talk about the story and the plot first, because that's one of the really big striking things that got me about Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was its plot. And I will say the plot of this game of Xenoblade X didn't really grab me at first like it did with Xenoblade 1. I feel like the first game has a very strong opening, and while this game has a really great opening, I mean, you crash land and you open the door to anyways, the human race pretty much crash lands on this planet Mira, and you're one of the survivors who didn't crash land with the rest, so Elma comes to rescue you, and you pretty much get acquainted with the world. I think it's really great, a really strong introduction, but the first 3 chapters are really just about getting your main character acquainted with, you know, the world and the controls, and it does set up quite a bit of the story beats while you're in the process of that, but a lot of it is really just getting the game set up. And that was like the first 3 chapters. After chapter 3 is completed, the game completely opens up. They let you roam free, do side quests, and they even put you like there's a requirement on, you know, progressing to chapter 4. You need to get your planetary survey up to like 15%, and then you can actually move on with the story, which I think is neat, and is like, this is how the game is kind of structured. It's like, it's more focused on, you know, exploring the planet and, you know, advancing the human race on this planet rather than like the main plot story. And right now, you know, as of just playing through chapter 4, the plot really is focused on reclaiming the life hold, and that life hold holds the rest of the human race, and trying to advance human life on Mira. And I think that that's really an interesting plot, but it's not as strong as, you know, Shulk and his childhood friend claiming revenge upon the robots that killed his girlfriend and attacked his homes. I feel like it's definitely different, but I don't dislike it. It just didn't grab me as much as it did, you know, in the first game. And comparing here, I know they're not trying to be the exact same thing, but yeah, just my thoughts on the plot. Seeing as we're talking about the plot, I'll touch on the characters a little bit. The characters were a really strong part about the first game that I just absolutely fell in love with. In this game, you play as a silent protagonist. Like, you create your own character, which I think is really neat for the series. It's the only game to let you do it. You don't really attach yourself to an MC or anything, which I thought was really cool. Character customizer is great. It's pretty detailed. Not as crazy as like Monster Hunter or a Bethesda game, but I thought it was pretty good for what it was. Got like really excited when you picked your character's voice, cause when they show you the different type of like voices you can choose, they attach the voice actor to it, and I saw like Yuri Lowenthal's there, Robbie Daymond, like all of these voice actors that I like know because of other games. I was like really excited just to see their names for some reason, and of course I went with Robbie Daymond. I had to go for the delicious pancakes, of course. The party system in this game was very different than the first for Xenoblade, well, it's the same but different. In Xenoblade 1, you started out with, you know, your small group of characters, and by the end of the game, you have a lot of people to choose from, but they're all characters you've met and engaged with on your adventure. So it's like you were building a party of your friends, and in this game, like, you have a very big selection of people you can add, but like, you don't feel as connected with them. Like, it's like in Xenoblade 1, you meet Sharla for the first time, and she's defending her colony after they were attacked, Colony 6, and like, once you complete all that Colony 6 section of the story, she's like, hey, I want to help you on your quest, and so you've already had this like character building development with it. And while, yeah, you can have Elma and Lynn on your team who you've engaged with in the chapters up to this point, it just didn't feel, you know, as connected as Xenoblade 1 was. It doesn't feel like such a collective journey, so I'm really hoping that it gets better with that as I go on in the game. But I will say the character writing is pretty solid. Like, it's funny, it's engaging, you really get a sense of the personality of these characters, but I just really wasn't immediately, you know, hooked to the main cast as I was in the first game, which is fine. You don't have to have the world's best cast of characters, you know, in an open world exploration game, but like, this is Xenoblade here. Okay, so as for the world is pretty much the main draw of this game. This is the first open world. I believe it's the only open world in a Xenoblade game as well, but the world is very open, very vibrant. As Xenoblade is, you know, famously known for, it's huge. Like, this world is insanely big. It's like, how did they cram this on the Switch, let alone the Wii U? But yeah, I really enjoyed this world. It's really fun to explore. There's enemies, so many enemies. I do like the enemy variety. It's really great. There's like these crash landing ships and alien technology that you can interact with and get treasure from. I think it's really cool. There's a lot to do in this world. There's a lot, like, once you get opened up to the world after chapter 3, there's a lot of side quests and stuff to do. There's a lot jam-packed even in the first opening hours of the game. The map, the way that things are laid out for the map is in like a hexagonal grid system, kind of like Catan. I think that's really good. I really enjoy how it works. Part of the game is going out and like surveying, putting down these like, they're like towers from Breath of the Wild on a so much smaller scale, and they kind of open up the little activities on the map in the world that you can do, and I think it's really fun, really interesting, and the way that things are presented like through the map is just way less confusing than the first game. There were definitely like times in the first game where I was like, where am I going? What am I doing? What is this? I'm just really impressed with the world. I'm impressed with how it looks and runs as well. It's just like, how on earth is this game on the same system as others like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom? Those run pretty fantastic on the Switch. Like, games like Breath of the Wild and this one and all the other Xenoblade games, how are they all on the same system that, you know, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are on, and they run like absolute dog? I won't sit here and harp on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet because I'm just not going to do that, but it's just a little mind-boggling that from the same publisher can come two very different results. The gameplay really moves hand in hand with the world design. Because this is such a huge world and the emphasis is to really get into it and explore it, the movement from this game, at least compared to Xenoblade 1, was way faster. I think like they really touched up and polished the exploration angle. Like, you run, like the sprint is like a straight up run, and your jumps are higher too, which I really appreciate, getting around the big mountains and stuff. Yeah, I think the movement is just great. The combat is really fun. It keeps the Xenoblade formula of having like all your arts and stuff. There's so much variety in weapons and art abilities in this game that it's kind of crazy to wrap your head around, but it's fun. I like the way that they present it. The combat is just super unique. It also lets you like switch between a physical weapon and a ranged weapon. So like my guy, he has a sword and an assault rifle, and I feel like that's just really cool, a really nice balance. And your arts are categorized based on sword and gun as well, which I think is really cool. The game feels really nice and fluid to control. No complaints here. I also appreciate how the difficulty was like a lot higher than the first game. Now, the first game had some great difficulty. I like it when games like really challenge you, but there were some enemies where I was like a level or two higher than them in this game, and they were still kicking my butt. So I don't know what that tells about me as a gamer, but yeah, I really appreciated the difficulty in this game. Really good in the gameplay department. Alright, you can't talk about a Xenoblade game without talking about the music. Music is just such an important part of Xenoblade as a whole, and this soundtrack is really a standout soundtrack. It's got like a rock kind of metal vibe with, you know, orchestrated music and techno weaved in. It's extremely unique, and unlike the more whimsical styles that the numbered Xenoblade games have, I'm an absolute fiend for the Xenoblade soundtrack, so I really like this game. It was so different in the soundtrack department. The soundtrack for this game was actually composed by Hiroyuki Sawano, who I know best for doing the music of Attack on Titan. And if you've watched or listened to Attack on Titan, you know exactly how this soundtrack is gonna sound. It's really a standout. I implore you to go listen to it because it's pretty unique. One of the features that's in this game is the online mode, which doesn't interest me at all, so I haven't messed with that or tried it out, so I can't really comment on that. I'm just not really a online games kind of guy, so can't say if it's good or bad, but knowing Switch Online, it's probably a buggy mess. Things I'm really looking forward to, you know, seeing where the story goes. Like I said previously, driving a Skell, which is the big robot thing on the cover. I'm really looking forward to piloting a giant robot. I don't know if it'll be Armored Core style, but I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but I'm looking forward to getting there, as well as the definitive edition content. Now, like Xenoblade 1, it includes a completely separate side campaign from the original game, and you can choose that in the menu. It starts you off at a default level. It gives you weapons and stuff. The game expects you to have played the main game before the side story, but like for people coming from either the Wii or the 3DS version, they could just dive right into the new stuff before tackling the original game, which I think was a good way of doing it. But for Xenoblade X here, the definitive edition content seems to be, I actually don't know how it's sprinkled in. It's not apparent on the main menu like it was in the first game. So yeah, we'll just see where that goes, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they added and what they improved on. In Xenoblade 1 for Future Redeemed, you could tell that they learned some things from Xenoblade 2. So I'm really interested to see what they've learned and implemented from obviously having 2 and 3 under their belt and putting that into the definitive edition here of X. Yeah, so to wrap it up, my just kind of off the cuff, first impressions, thoughts of Xenoblade X. I've been really enjoying this game. I've been really having fun exploring the world. The combat is fun. The controls are it feels very nice to play. The world is just absolutely gorgeous. I'm in love with the world. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing where the story goes. Hopefully these characters will, grow on me a little more than they have. But yeah, super excited to play this game and, enjoy it. So anyways, I'm sure I'll have a lot more on this game to say once I finally finish it. So keep your eyes peeled for a full kind of video when I finish the game. Although considering it took me almost a year to beat Xenoblade 1, this video might not come out for a while.